Hey guys, I am here at the Heber City Airport today, and it was the Heber Leadership Academy, and we had the opportunity to hear from the leadership at the Heber Valley Airport to discuss that word, expansion, that nobody wants to hear about. So I wanted to give you a recap on that because I think it's really interesting, and I learned a lot of things today that I actually didn't know myself. So the airport has 15 different stakeholders that they are responsible to kind of make happy. So there's a lot of people who have insight and input into what's going on here at the airport. So the expansion that we're talking about has people on all sides, a little upset, whether they support it or whether they don't. So in the 80s, we actually started purchasing up land to be able to make the airport a bigger place. And 30 different times we purchased land for the airport. And because of that, we have obligations to the FAA to pay back all of that money into perpetuity. So we've promised that we are going to abide by the rules and the regulations that are set for forever. So if we just used the money to buy the buildings, we could have purchased back those buildings and said, okay, we're not going to continue to do this anymore. But we didn't. We purchased land with it, tried to make it a great airport for our local population. We are a private airport, which I thought was one of those interesting designations. We're not a commercial airport, we're a private airport. So there's not commercial planes that come in. You can't come here and get a ticket and fly out. It's only the private planes that will be going in and out of here. There's 135 planes here, 75 hangars. We have a lot of assurances from the grants that we received from the FAA, 39 of them. Some of the more important ones were, the airport has to be for public use. So one of the key things was they can't discriminate. They can't discriminate against people, but they also can't discriminate against planes. If a pilot feels on a private runway that they can land there, it has to be allowed. It doesn't matter whether it's considered safe, it has to be allowed. So commercial planes aren't going to be landing at our airport, and there's a reason why, but private planes, they can elect to take the risk to land here. So that's kind of what we have going on. They have to meet the safety standards. They have to preserve the pavement, which is, we have to come up with $600,000 every 4 years-ish to do that. And then it is matched by the FAA. So that's a huge cost that we have to remember if we elect not to have that federal government funding that we are going to have to come up with. And it's probably going to come from taxpayer dollars inside Heber City, not Wasatch County, not Midway. It would just be within Heber City. We have to do an updated ALA to have plans for how we're going to make sure it's safe and how we're going to continue to move forward. So in the 90s, they came through and they made it longer. They redid it so it's 7,000 feet long, and it can take planes up to 140,000 pound weight limit. So most of the planes don't come near that, but that is the limit that we can have. So when everyone says, oh my gosh, we're going to be getting bigger and more planes, that's actually not true. So they can't go over 142,000 pounds. That is not going to change. The weight that the runway can hold is not going to get bigger. So we are limited to that no matter what happens. They said they can actually shorten the runway. It's not all about shortening the runway. It's about making safety precautions on either side. So widening the runway, making sure there's bigger barriers from side to side. And you know what that does is it actually provides more open space because they can't fill it full of buildings or putting other things in there. It's going to create an area of more open space. Let's see. We are currently a C2 airport that is not compliant. And what that means is that we had more than 500 in 1 year takeoff or landing. So we are a C2 airport already from a B2. So we just have to make sure that we're safe now. So let's see. So there's 4 reasons that we are never going to be a commercial airport. One is the weight limit. So there's that. They can't get in. 2 is the terrain. So the planes can't get in and take off in a safe manner because we're kind of this small little valley, this little bowl. Another one is that we don't have what is needed in order for pilots to be able to communicate with towers. It doesn't work in our valley, so that communication is not there. UDOT will never approve of this to happen. So those are the reasons. Let's see, is there anything else here? They said, you know, one big thing they're talking about, well, why are the planes going up? Well, the pandemic didn't help with that because more people decided that they needed to be able to fly privately because they couldn't get on commercial jets. So once they did that, they learned that they could purchase these fractional amounts on a plane and fly in privately rather than having to go pay first class. And so that's kind of why we've seen a huge increase in the number of planes that are coming in and out. And also, if you just go outside and you look around, we live in like this beautiful community and development is just going through the roof. So with that obviously comes more traffic. So that's kind of what is happening there and why we're seeing it. They can't say, no, you can't land here. So a few things that we asked about is, one, what does this airport bring to Heber Valley? It brings about $16 million a year, comes through the airport. A lot of people say everyone's going to Summit County, but what they have found is 35% of those that arrive here go to Summit County, 35% are staying here in Heber, and 35% are going, or 30% are going elsewhere. So it's actually very even between Wasatch County and Summit County. Some positives, you know, they help the firefighters, the wildland fires. They reseed after the fires come in. They stock the lakes that are around us with fish. They have military training. People go from balloons. They had some transplants that were flown in here last year because they couldn't get into some of the other airports. There's so many things, different programs, training, teachings. It's a very positive thing to have here in our community. There was 25 accidents and 1 death in the last while, and so that's why the safety has really taken a big thing. So the airport is not currently paid by local taxes. It is self-sustaining with the grants from the federal government. If we elect not to be safe, we're going to lose that. So the big things that people say is bigger jets and more noise. As jets get newer, and actually as they get bigger, they're often quieter. So with the new technology that's coming in, we're expecting that it will get quieter. They have a lot of noise abatement things that they're working on to try and make it better for us. And I think it's something that I just want to point out there too. If you have questions about the airport, call and ask. Come take a tour. They would love to show you around and to explain to you why it's not really a choice. It's about us fulfilling our contractual obligations that we had and just ultimately making it safer. So there's not going to be a lot of changes as far as what is coming into the airport. It's just going to reduce our liability as a city by making sure that we have met those safety standards. So if you have questions about the airport, I'd love to answer them, or call the airport. They'd be happy to answer them as well.